Well, Madman here. Welcome to the rebroadcast of the Peter Jurasik Babylon 5 retrospective interview. Thank you for joining us. We really do appreciate it. Be sure, if you have a moment, be sure to go down and hit that subscribe button, like, share. You'll be able to know when we do shows like this on a basis, because there'll be a lot more interviews coming soon to all of our channels here, all of our correspondings on there, Sci Fiction Snobs channel, Tennessee Tabletop Tavern, and of course Sci-Fi for Me TV, as well as we'll be doing more of these collaborations in the near future. Now, a couple things. Obviously, you can see a little better my Lando Malari t-shirt I'm wearing. A couple things that we just want to throw out, technical things before we start the video. Understand that there are some things that we did a little tweak. We removed the countdown, so there's no countdown at the beginning, so there's no 5-minute countdown. It's gone on there. In the middle of the interview, we did show a montage. We had to pull it. Unfortunately, Disney decided to do a copyright on us. So the other guys had theirs on there. They'll be able to, when they put theirs back up on their channels, they're basically that section will be removed as well. Also, about an hour and 30 in, the audio on myself and all the other hosts kind of goes echoey, and it gets worse toward the end. But Peter's voice stays true, no problem with that. So the interview does go on very well. That we tried to fix it in the editing, but unfortunately didn't work out well onto there. We couldn't remove it completely without distorting even what we were saying even further. So on that. Now, understand, the chat room on my channel here will be open. I will be in the chat. I'll be able to answer the questions the best I can. I think Death Angel's channels might be joining me as well. But unfortunately, we can't answer things that we didn't ask Peter. So understand that to that point. But if you want to comment on it, you can do it in the chat or in the comments line below. So, thank you for tuning in. Once again, subscribe, like, share, and let's get on with the show. Let's get on with the interview, because let me tell you something. We had a great time with Peter. Thanks to David Shifter out there for setting this up. Peter was fantastic. I thank him also for coming on the show. So let's see what he has to say on here.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Babylon 5 retrospective. This week on the show, we have a special live exclusive interview with Peter Jurasik, who played Lando Malari on Babylon 5. I'm your host, Science Fiction Snob, sent from the future to save you from bad science fiction. But this week, no fiction, only facts. First, before we get started, let me welcome my co-host. He is the Jakar to my Lando, in that he's a little more angry and ugly. It's Cam. Say hello, Cam.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Good evening. All right. Okay. What first I'm going to do, everyone, is Cam. I'm going to bring in all of our guests, our panelists, and then we're going to bring in Peter, and we'll just let everyone know, who's doing what. So Cam will be our moderator. He'll be keeping everything on track. He'll be watching the chat, and he might be inserting some of the chat questions, if he thinks they're good, into the conversation. Secondly, we have Madman. Let's bring Madman in. And he is going to be, go ahead, Madman.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show.
He's going to be taking care of the second part of our show, where he's going to be asking Peter a lot of questions about his time on Babylon 5. And thirdly, we have Death Angel Shadow.
Hello.
And he's going to be taking the last part of the show, and he's going to be asking questions that some of you have submitted before, and, good ones in the chat as well, that sort of thing. All right. So before we before we get into anything else, let me just go over a few administration points before we bring in Peter. We have a great guest, so please be on your best behavior. I'm sure everyone will be anyway. All the channels that are simulcasting this are all monitored, so any bots are going to be banned. We're going to take care of that right away. The show is on a 30-second delay, so it'll be about 30 seconds before we see chats. So just so that you're aware, you're not going, hey, how come they're ignoring me? It takes about 30 seconds. All appropriate super chats will be shown and will be tried to be read at the appropriate time, if we can. And you must be a subscriber, at least on my channel. I believe the other ones are set this way as well, for at least 5 minutes before you're allowed to post chats. So please subscribe so that you can enjoy with the enter in with the conversation with everyone else. And I'd like to thank all of our viewers who posted questions before the show, including T-Bird, Shadow and Sun, Hoot Owl, Ajurian J, Timorin Inalis, I hope I got that right, D. Pensac, Dave, Outpost Nerd, Jeanette, and Vicky. All right, now let me get on and let me introduce, the star of our show, the man best known for his portrayal of Londo Mollari on Babylon 5, but a long professional acting career of over 45 years, including parts in Tron, Hill Street Blues, and Beverly Bunce, and numerous other shows. Please, everyone, give a warm welcome to Peter Jurasik. All right, sorry. Let me just, okay, let's go back to this. All right.
There we go.
Peter, welcome. We'll sort this out. We'll sort this out eventually. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Peter, how are you today? I understand that you had a little bit of a problem with the snow in the last couple days.
I didn't have a lot of problem with it, but the state of North Carolina, where I live now, had a little problem with it. But I scooted down to the coast where I used to live, visited with my son, and now I'm back home. The snow has melted. The ice is gone, but it's supposed to return in 2 days. So, stock up on hot dogs, beans, and alcohol.
Oh,
yeah. Got to get into the toilet paper and the panic buying, all that sort of thing.
Peter, normally we would have Bravari, a little bit of Spool and Hot Jala, but unfortunately the lurker that was hired to do that hasn't arrived yet.
No one can do it as good as Veer used to do it anyway. I don't really like anyone else's Spool, but my attaché Veer.
All right, so I'm going to ask some questions about your early career.
Sounds great.
Question is about what about your first role as a professional actor? What was it? Can you tell us a little bit about it? What you did?
Well, let's see. My first role as a professional was in. I started in New York because that's where I'm from. Born in New York, so after I went to school up in Boston or up in New Hampshire, went to New York and got cast in a company of Godspell. Do all of you remember that show, Godspell? As the fellow who wrote it, his name was Michael Tebelak, once said to me, I hate shows about Jesus and clowns. But it was a show about Jesus and clowns. And so I did that. I was in the first national tour. Then I did it in New York. Finally, we settled down in Boston and Philadelphia. But it was a big success. That was my first job. I got the job on my father's 50th birthday. So it's easy for me to remember that day. And let me see, somebody okay, good. And, I forget what I made. I think I made $350 or thereabouts. And I was so delighted to have that money. I didn't know what the hell to do with $350. My roommate and I used to just throw the cash into a drawer and just, all we did was really work. So when you're doing 8 shows a week, you can't spend $350 very well anyway. So that was my first job. I worked in New York for a while. I eventually made it up to New England and did, quote, more serious theater at the Portland Stage Company. It was called Profile Theater when I was first up there. And then eventually, my girlfriend at the time had a dream that I went to California. And just like most 23, 24-year-olds, I decided, Yeah, her dream. That's a fine idea. Hey, that's a good one for Point of No Return too, right? Weren't their dreams part of that? Anyway, yeah, I went to California. So
Okay. So I was looking. I think your first on your IMDb. I don't know if this is your first sort of television gig, but it said that you were in Family, the TV show. Is that your first television one?
that was my first break. I had just gotten an agent. He was somehow connected with Family. I got a tiny role on that. Actually, before I did that, I did a film that Dustin Hoffman did. It was called Straight Time. It's a great film if you never saw it. It was about ex-cons. And I talked my way onto the Warner Brothers production office, and I literally did that, and told them that that Dustin had worked with my dad in New York. My dad was in an ad agency, and he had worked with him, but I told him that Dustin said if I ever came out, I should look him up and see what he's doing, and that he was a friend to my father. The next day they called me back and said, we talked with Dustin, and he doesn't remember you, and he doesn't remember your father. But we think you had such big cojones that we're going to let you read. So they read for me. I played a small role. That was actually my first film and television role in California. But as I said, great film if you've never seen it. Harry Dean Stanton, Dustin Hoffman, who else? A lot of good actors in it. Peter Jurasik was in it in a tiny role playing the bank teller.
In that the movie. It comes in second on your IMDb, probably because you were in the second season, I think, of Family. I just would mention, I was quickly going down the list in the show Family, and there's quite a lot of people who did a one episode sort of thing in there, and I just note that Stephen Furst, Veer was in there in season 4.
Wow.
Some Renee Orbert Genoise, James Woods, Tommy Lee Jones, Michael J. Fox, Ted Danson, Brett Spiner, Shelley Long.
They all did gigs in Family.
Yeah. I just quickly zoomed through and picked out the ones that jumped in front of me, and I'm not that knowledgeable actor, but there's probably about 150, 200, I'm sure. Much more noticeable.
You know what, Hollywood, people don't realize it, but it really is kind of a small town that once people start working and they say, oh yeah, this guy's got a big nose and curly hair, we can put him in a lot of parts. The town is really small. You run into the same people and the same people work, and that's just true. That it's just the people who they feel like can do the job and don't charge too much or don't cost too much time. It's a small town. So it's not surprising for me to hear that, those people were on Family. I cannot even remember what I did on Family, though, to be honest.
I think it said you played Marty. I don't know what that is, but I didn't see the show. But
I narrows it down.
It was a little bit early for me. Cam, you had a good question you wanted to jump in.
Yeah, actually, one of our regular viewers, Dave, in the chat was asking about the triple threat, theater, TV, and movies, and which one, well, maybe you could just talk about that. Which one do you had the most best memories of, or that you enjoyed the most?
Cam, when I first started, I started like most actors do in theater. I had theater training and all that. And so I enjoyed doing theater, and it's always been fun. And it's a great spot for actors to learn the profession, because it's really about you and the audience. The director's gone, the writer's gone, the curtain goes up, and you're on stage with a group of people who are sitting in the dark. But I have to say that when I finally got to Los Angeles, I really liked television best, because it's so fast, and there's so much. The turnover is so quick that it entertained me the most. I mean, films, as most people know, the cliche is you sit around waiting a long time, and you really do sit around waiting a long time. That obviously raises the quality of the work, but at the same time, the actors do a lot of sitting around in your trailer, doing whatever you want to do, reading the book or what, right? And so when television came along, I really liked it. It's very fast. People, you work for a day and then that's gone, and then you're on to the next day. And I just enjoyed that. I also enjoyed, I worked with people on Hill Street Blues, David Milch, who did Deadwood and a couple of other shows, and he was, he loved to write right on the set. He'd come down and just hand you new pages while you were doing it, and that's really enjoyable. It's fun. It's a little bit scary. I was really good in those days. I'm 75 years old now, God help me. But when I was 25, I could remember lines like that, and so I enjoyed it. So I like TV a lot. It's fast and it turns over fast. That's what I like about it.
Cool.
Okay. Okay. So this question's got a little bit of a long of a preamble, or sorry for that. So I just sort of mentioned.
I'll talk about anything. I'm here for you. The old joke is the first date with the actor. You go out with the actor, and he spends the first hour on the first date talking about himself, and then finally he says, "Oh, gee, I'm talking about myself too much. Let's not talk about me anymore. Let's talk about my work." So that's the way I am.
So I've got a little bit of
couldn't be happier to talk about my work or whatever, So.
I have a little bit of preamble to this, just because I kind of want people to know all the, some of the shows that you worked on in your
Sure.
46 plus years, like know some of the notable ones. I didn't list them all, but Barney Miller, The White Shadow, MASH, Taxi, Family Ties, Fame, Night Court, MacGyver, Remington Steele, Scarecrow, Mrs. King, Growing Pains, Matlock, and then LA Law, Third Rock from the Sun, Sliders, NYPD Blue, Dawson's Creek, and of course, Hill Street Blues and Beverly Hills Bunts, Bay City Blues. My question was going to be, it seems like you've done a fair amount of police dramas. What are your thoughts about the acting challenges on those type of shows versus something like Babylon 5, the science fiction show, and probably Hill Street Blues would kind of be the
Cam, you know what? The answer to that, as a preamble, I'll say this: when you first get there and you're waiting to get into do some work, I started in a comedy group called the Village Idiots, and we were down at the Comedy Store on Sunset and out in where UCLA is. Anyway, we were working every day in those clubs, and that showcased who I was. So the first jobs I really started to get were more funny jobs, because they saw me as a comedian at the Comedy Store. So I did Barney Millers. I did 2 Barney Millers, and people saw that. So the real turn was, how did I get to a place where I could start doing more serious work, for lack of a better word, or more drama? And that was that was a breakthrough. Producers had to, get by. Oh yeah, he's the funny guy who was part of the Village Idiots or on Barney Miller, and then slowly let me in on, what else? More serious dramas. I was lucky enough that in my training I had done that. We go back to theater for a minute, right? And I had done both of those in college, and I felt confident about both of those. So that worked out, really good for me in the sense that. Once they started the first show I did for Stephen Bochco, who did Hill Street Blues, and he was a really successful TV producer. But he cast me in a show that James Earl Jones was doing, and it was called Paris. It was James Earl Jones' series, and it was really about him as a cop and a teacher. And I got to play his good friend. And I said to Stephen Bochco, well, gee, I'm happy to do this, but what do you want this character, what are you looking for this character to look like or do? And he said, you don't have to do anything, Peter. You just got to do you. That's all. And, you're the character we would like. We like the character to look like you. We want you to, we want to wear you want to wear your clogs. Wear your clogs. I was an old hippie. it's about you, and that was a great lesson to me as a young actor about TV drama in Hollywood, which is they're looking for honesty. They're looking for you to open up who you are and to understand the script, but they don't need a lot of character. Of course, by the time I got old, I was yearning to do character again. So Hill Street Blues was, a really interesting character, slimy little snitch that he was.
Yeah.
Rondo, obviously, a pretty interesting character. But very often you're just learning, Cam, to do who you are and funnel it into the work and see where it matches up to you, who you are. Is that what the question was about? I don't remember. Was the question?
Sure. Yeah,
no. Was it about Greenland? I'm sorry.
Let me follow that up with a little. So you did a lot of comedy. I wasn't aware of that. You did a lot of comedy, and do you prefer comedy or drama? What your thoughts about those two?
No, I don't prefer either. I prefer, especially when I was young. Well, I was just delighted that I was working, which was great. A lot of actors feel that way. And what you get addicted to is good writing. So when I did Barney Miller, I mean, that was written really for what it was. It was very well written, and I played two different episodes, and one guy was a guy who went crazy. Muzak and elevators drove him nuts. So I played sort of an urban maniac. I'm a little bit of an urban maniac. So that worked fine. And the other character was a guy who had destroyed a sperm bank where he and his wife had deposited his sperm, but it thawed out, and he was another urban maniac. And so, that's pretty good stuff for comedy. You know what I mean? It was pretty well written and pretty well put together. All of those actors were really great teachers to me. They were happy to have me on once they realized that I was relatively new to the television business. Everybody, including all of the actors, really, the regulars, said, there's your camera over there, there's your light over there, this is how you do it. Really easy people to work with, make you feel relaxed. So that I love. So the answer to the question really is, if it was written well, I enjoyed it. If it wasn't written well, I probably didn't do a very good job in it, and you don't want to watch it again.
Yeah,
and as you know, Babylon 5 was written well. So.
Oh yeah, excellent writing. We talk about that all the time. And it's, I'm a big believer in good writing as well. I'm always, if the writing's good, that's the first step, and then everything else sort of comes after. But
yeah, that's really, it's the truth. If it ain't on the page, it ain't on the stage, as they say.
So Cam is yelling in my ear, and he's saying that this is a good question here from Mac Thompson in the chat. He says, Scarecrow and Tron, did you pull to get Bruce on Babylon 5, or was that just independent of your working with him prior to?
Well, first of all, of course, I had no pull in terms of casting at all. They've rarely asked the actors who we would want, but I had worked with Bruce on Tron first, and then on his show, Scarecrow and Mrs. King. We both were just about the same age. He was born in May, and I was April of 1950. We both got to Hollywood at about the same time, so we knew each other and ran into each other occasionally. But once we did Tron together, we actually realized, oh, you're my friend. Oh, yeah, now I know you. So when he got cast in Babylon 5 as Michael O'Hara's replacement, I couldn't have been happier. He's a great guy. I will run down, if anyone wants me to, the people who are in that cast or in Tron, and tell you what kind of people they are. But Bruce is a great guy. If you get a chance to see him in, a con or face-to-face, you'll like him a lot. He's for someone as good looking and who has to play, as they say, the top of the call sheet, and he's, the star of a lot of work when he first started. He's doing more good supporting work now. But, he's a very elegant guy, very relaxed. He's just a good guy. And so I couldn't have been happier that he got cast in Babylon 5. But no, the answer to your question is nobody asked me shit.
Well, I won't ask you about I want to ask about Babylon 5 characters, because then Al will kill me when it comes to his spot.
Absolutely.
He's got all his questions there, but we're going to get to that very, very soon.
Good. As I said, I'm delighted to do this with you guys, and so I'm happy. The questions are great.
Oh, sorry. Just before we go, we'll just say thanks for the super chat there from Agile Monk. Yeah, great.
No, thank you. Great questions, and thanks.
Is there any Peter? Is there? I don't know if you want to comment on any of those roles or any of those specific.
Oh, gee, they really make me smile to see them. Tron. We can do a lot of jokes about. The white tights. Really, the only people who should work in white tights are Hungarian gymnasts, and maybe Bruce Boxleitner, but certainly not me.
Yeah.
But I took a lot of static for wearing those white tights, but. That was such a fun job to do, and the first time we got together to read for it, Jeff Bridges and I mean, he was so generous. He had just come off the show, the show that the film that cost so much money to do that went over the top. Can't remember the name of it. Anyway, he came back onto and he said, "I made more money on that movie." Then he got paid $100,000. He wasn't really Jeff Bridges then. And that was a lot of money, but he said he made almost 10 times that in overtime. I can't remember the name. He was the guy who did Deer Hunter. What was that film? Come on, one of you guys.
Anybody, someone in the chat, if you've got that.
Anybody? Anyway.
They're 30 seconds behind us, so they'll probably.
Yeah, he said. He was so nice to me. He said, "Shall we? We snuck around the Disney lot a little bit. We found the sound room. We went in and played guitars together. He is genuinely who he seems to be too, Jeff Bridges. Really straightforward, not complicated, really nice person. And that job was so much fun to do because there were no sets." Steve Lisberger, who created and wrote the show, basically he would describe to us what we were going to do in the scenes, and everything was on green screen, and we had to play like children, and that was really fun. So I have nothing but happy memories about that, despite the white tights. And what else was there? Well, Scarecrow and Mrs. King was great. As I said, Bruce was already a friend, so that was nice. Interesting enough, my girlfriend at the time got cast in that episode as my wife, and that never happens in Hollywood. You never end up working with friends when you're both being cast.
Yeah.
So that was nice. And what else did they show there? What can I say about Dennis Franz? He won a stack of Emmys, and he and I had great rapport. We found each other very funny. Stephen First and I found each other very funny. It was a little annoying for the crew, but it was fun for us. We liked each other, had a great time, and so the spinoff for Hill Street Blues, Beverly Hills Bunts, I mentioned him before. David Milch wrote that, and so we had a great time on it. It got caught up in the marketing of it. Dramedies and I forget what the head of the network. I'm so glad. If I haven't purposely forgotten his name, I should have. But anyway, he said nasty things about the show, and that was the end of it. So, but we had a great time doing Beverly Hills Bunts. That was a fun show too.
So the
David Milch's writing and Dennis Franz's acting. You're pretty happy.
So the chat's coming back to saying Michael Cimino was the Deer Hunter, and.
You got it, Michael Cimino, and he did a movie. He did Deer Hunter, and then he did a follow-up movie that cost so much money. It's famous for going over budget. Anyway, I told you that whole story, and you dug that out. So,
Heaven's Gate, was that the one, or was that the one that Jeff Bridges was in? That was
the one that Jeff Bridges was in. He said he got hired for $100,000 and made 10 times that in overtime.
Yeah, the chat's always keeping us.
He made 10 times that in overtime. That's true. Yippee, good for him. Anyway.
I wanted to ask a question here about, this is from B-Bricks. I want to ask a question about acting careers. What do you think is the best way to get into a performing arts career in today's day and age?
You know what? I only can look at my own career because it's really true that there's no one way up. You know, there is a lot of ways to getting a career in acting, but I studied it in college, and I had really good teachers, and so that was a good foundational start for me, you know, to figure out really how to do it from a craft point of view. That was great, you know, and the other thing I learned there was that I loved doing it. It was fun to do. So I would advise to people, you know, get a good acting teacher and see if you can fall in love with acting, because you're not probably going to work that much at the beginning. And my best advice is do everything you can do as an actor. If your church is looking for someone to read the gospel, and even if you're not of that religion, go in and take the job. It'll teach you something. If whenever you can get up in front of people as an actor, you should do that. I mean, that's great training for you, and that's the best way. You know, turning down work is crazy, and I only want to do this, or I only want to be in funny stuff, or I only want to be dramatic. You never know who's going to see what. The work I got in Tron, I went to a party with a dear friend who I had done theater with in New Hampshire. And he had a party at his house, he and his girlfriend in Santa Monica. And the producer of Tron and the writer, who I mentioned, Steve Lisberger, who was also the director, they were both at the party. And they hired me, and they hired Dan Shore, who played Ram in Tron. Right. And I mean, that stuff really happens, and that's how that happened. You know, the story I told you about working on the Dustin Hoffman movie, that really happens. Sometimes, you know, you try something, but you can't do better than getting a good acting teacher and then just getting yourself out there. When I got to Los Angeles, joining a comedy group and getting in front of people at the Comedy Store was the way to do it. Saturday Night Live was just starting to cook, right. And that was great, you know. So that's the advice. Get up in front of people and do it.
So that Tron, the Tron one, did did they just hire you on the spot, or did they say, hey, come in and read for us?
I don't remember that we actually did a reading. As I said, the fellow Jerry Burns, whose house the party was at, I had done theater with in New Hampshire. So he just invited me to the party. Those two guys were there. It wasn't a big deal movie. I mean, the big deal in it was Jeff Bridges. That includes Bruce was not a star. Nobody else was. And I think they just hired me, Dan Shore, who played Ram, and Jerry Burns, the guy whose house it was at. He played one of the guards. So, I mean, they were looking for people to jump on board, and it happened just by luck, you know?
Okay. Cam is yelling at me again. Another Tron question. Was Tron a strange experience with the special effects and the green screen? I assume that was kind of new at the time. Like you hadn't done a lot of that. What was that?
Well, as I said, the interesting thing about it, right, is there were no sets. It was all green screen, and completely. So where you saw us holding a rail, or there was nothing there. You know, it was all sort of make believe. We had those funny white tights on, and they had, highlighted that stuff. But other than that, they were big empty sets, and it was the first time I saw what was called nowadays directors use books, and they show you what the scene is going to look like. But that was the first time I had ever seen that, where a director said, look, this is what the final product is going to do, and you guys are going to move around like that's what's happening. I mean, when Jeff and I were doing the ring game stuff, there obviously was nothing dropping. We were not throwing anything towards each other. We weren't even on, I think we were on rings, but they weren't lit up, and they didn't drop away. When my character fell to his death, they just had me hanging on the end of it was just a platform. So that was the fun thing about it. It was wild and interesting, but it was like how kids play more.
Yeah.
If we're going to play cops and robbers or cowboys and Indians or whatever, you kind of just make it up, and that's what he wanted us to do. So theater actors were good for that too.
Right, because you kind of tend to do that without,
Yeah,
you wouldn't have a lot of props necessarily in the theater. You'd had to, yeah, that's a good point.
It was the fun. One of the funnest things about it was the first couple of days. First of all, he hired the producer hired all of us for like weeks. He didn't do daily jobs. He gave us weekly contracts, which was great. He put all sorts of fun. There was a Tron video game, so he had Tron video games on the set so we could play. And the first week or so, we went to the Disney commissary to eat lunch, and we couldn't get out of our costumes, so we all went with the the white tights, and
Right.
So 10 actors in white tights walked in on these nice anime guys. And it was I think it was kind of disturbing for them. I am a little disturbing in white tights, by the way, anyway, as most of you would be. And at some point they said, really, we don't want you guys to go to the commissary anymore. We're going to have you, eat right on the...
They don't want you around.
That's nice. That's, I can take a hint. I'm a blues man, right? I know what you mean. Okay, sure. But that worked out great for us because we ate great food, sat around, became a real team. It was wonderful. Good show and fun to do. A little mind bending, but fun.
Would you, being on a sort of a bigger budget movie like Tron? Well, maybe it wasn't that big a budget, but it seems like a well-known film. Like being on a movie versus a television, what's the difference between those two in your view? How do you feel the difference between those two and as an actor?
I think again, I think I mentioned this, but when you asked about what do I like better, the big difference is that films take their time more. They're looking for a higher quality in terms of technology. People wouldn't have said that about Tron at the time. Tron was basically slapped around like a stupid stepchild when it came out. But even then, that was all groundbreaking stuff. So you got to put that in the context of the innovation of it. But films, for the most part, I think a lot of people know, take more time and they go slower to cover, a little piece of one scene in a full day. It's not so much to ask. Some scenes take days and days to do, while in television, they're moving along pretty fast. They got 12 pages to do in a week, and they got to, or whatever they got to do, and they get going and keep moving. And if it doesn't work out very good, well, then, you just move on. And then when you finally see it, you can scratch your head and say, oh, it looked like hell, but, wait till the next scene. In film, they're just taking their time more. I mean, I had a couple of people. Andreas worked on a Woody Allen, Andreas Katsoulis, who played Jakar in Babylon 5. He worked on a Woody Allen film. And I have a couple of people who did films with Woody Allen. And they said, he would not only shoot a scene and then go back and reshoot it 2 weeks later, call the whole cast back in to do that scene again, or he would just write it out completely and write a whole new scene. Right. But I think Andreas went back 2 or 3 times, for whatever movie he did with him. And, so film has a lot more money, and what that translates to is a lot more time.
Right.
To do
quality, you can take your time. Yeah. A little faster. Okay, Cam, why don't you ask this question here that you are so keen to ask? And
okay,
don't blame it on me.
This is my amateur.
Go ahead, Cam.
We'll
be the judge of how good it is.
Okay, this is my amateur comedy bit here. Would you be willing to get back in the white tights again if they asked you to do a new Tron movie with Boxleitner?
No.
No, just
no. Get back in the white tights.
For no money whatsoever? Doesn't
To
matter
be
how much.
honest, of course I would. First of all, I don't act anymore, so I'm not acting anymore because of some, medical stuff that has to do with light in my eyes and seizures and stuff. So I couldn't do it if I wanted. I can't do any more acting, but I had a long, fun career. So. And I would probably overrule it if they kept on stacking up $100 bills. At some point, I probably would say, "Yeah, let me see those white tights."
Everybody's got their price, right?
That's exactly right.
They drove a dump truck of money.
Again, it's about the writing, and I didn't play a major character in the. I mean, I had a couple of scenes at the beginning of the original Tron, but somebody like Dan Shore, who played Ram. I don't remember if he was killed. No, it'd be fun for him maybe to go back. I think Bruce has had a good time going back to it. So, it's amazing that the studios don't really have. If they separate themselves from the original creators, they don't have the best sense about what the next spinoff should be like, or it's rare that blank 2 or blank 3 or Rocky 6 is better than Rocky 5 or Rocky 1. That's just the studios and how they market it. So they don't really take into account what do the fans want, what does the audience who loved it want. So it's about the almighty dollar, right?
Right. Okay, this one's not more about Tron, but. Would you be interested? This question, I'm not sure who it's from, Cam. You give it to me, but this person would be interested to know if you enjoyed exploring a single character after so many episodic guest spots. I guess sort of the difference between that, the single character like Londo playing or the playing something different every time.
That's a good question. Again, that's one of the things I liked about TV, but I was lucky that, a lot of the TV shows that I forget who was reading stuff from my resume. I did multiple episodes. The Hill Street character, Sid the Snitch, I did, I think, 30 episodes of that. And then, the spinoff we did too. That was another 20. So that's a lot of work. Third Rock from the Sun, I did a couple of episodes, maybe 5, 6, maybe 10. I don't even know. You could find out. Often I would get to do the same character, and that is more fun because if you're getting to do it again, the writers are adding some nuance, complications, other perspectives from the character, and that's a lot more fun. Of course, that's a great thing to do. That being said, I loved going in for one episode. I did a lot of guest stars as. Whoever was reading my resumes, on a lot of different shows. And that was fun for me. You'd go, show up, you'd get the script, you'd hit it and work on the show. If it was a drama, you'd start work as soon as you got there on the day one. If it was a sitcom, you'd rehearse for 3 days and then shoot it in front of an audience. And that was really enjoyable to do. I liked doing that because it kind of tested your mettle about, can you get your ego out of the way and just serve the show, do the episode, and then say goodbye, and you're gone, and collect the paycheck and go home. And I like that. So I enjoyed those single episodes a lot too. It was always about the character and always about the writing for me. Not that I didn't do stuff that that was about the money, I guess, or, especially if you're starting, you can't pick and choose so much. But I was lucky. I got a lot early on. Steve Bochco, Danny Arnold, who did Barney Miller. Those are good writers, and they're known for it. And so they were a great showcase for me to do their words.
Okay, and that last question, Cam is informing me that last question was from Jan Schroeder, and
I love Jan. Hey, Jan.
I'll just comment that it looks like we've got 84 people watching live, so that's great. Good to see.
Wonderful.
People watching
live. I think Jan and 83 others.
And I think this is my last question.
I thought you'd never get it done with you.
well, and after that, you get into the Babylon 5 ones.
He took
I think this will be my last one. Okay, so you played Sid in Hill Street Blues, and one of history's best cop shows. And you went on to the spinoff Beverly Hills Blunt. Both series had a great cast, and so did Babylon 5. Can you tell us the similarities and/or differences working with such talented casts from all three shows?
You know what? The difference really has to do with how old I was. You mentioned Hill Street and you mentioned Babylon. What other show?
Hill Street Blues, Beverly Hills Bunt, and
that really had to do Hill Street and the whole Bunce experience. Hill Street, and I was a younger guy then, and so it felt. I felt so lucky to be on Hill Street Blues. It had won, and for the longest time, it had won the most Emmys for any drama, and it was really successful by the time I got to get on it and do that kind of a interesting character for it. So, but I was young, and so I felt really lucky, and the people on the show, for the most part, were all in for their show. And so if they thought you were doing good work, they were completely supportive of who you were. And so the different people that I worked with on Hill Street, they were already big hits, and their show was a big hit already, a lot of Emmys. They treated me really great. They thought I was doing a good job, and they encouraged me. And so that's what made that a great experience. I felt like everybody were big brothers and big sisters to me, and they took me in under their wing, and I was lucky to be a part of it. So that was fun. I liked that. By the time I was doing Beverly Hills Bunch, it was about Dennis and I. So we had already moved. We were the head people on the show then, and the regulars. And so it was time for us to kind of pass that on to the guests who came on our show. You wanted to encourage the people who were doing great work and just showing up for one day or 1 week or 3 episodes. And we had tons of good people and good directors on Beverly Hills Bunch. So that's what made that show different. By the time Babylon 5 rolled around, I was already, it's 30 years ago, but as I said, I'm 75 now. So, I was already pretty, sophisticated. I had done a lot of work anyway. So when I got the chance to do Babylon 5, I knew J. Michael Straczynski's writing was great. I knew I had a great character who I loved from the beginning. I auditioned the same day as Andreas, which was quite unique. And we both had talked about how good the writing was. And so in that case, I was trying to pass on to the other people who were younger than me. And I don't know how old, I may have been the oldest person. I don't know. Anyway, we've lost a lot of Babylon 5 people. But at that time, I could be kind of a teacher to them. So they were great experiences. I played different roles counting on my age. And in terms of Beverly Hills Bunch, it became about us. It was our show. So Dana Wheeler Nicholson, who is quite a good actress and done lots of good work. She was in all sorts of good movies. What was the movie that Val Kilmer played? I'm Your Huckleberry. What was that movie? Come on, guys. He was
Tombstone.
What was it? Tucson. That's right.
Tombstone is what
Tombstone.
Yeah.
She was in that movie. She's done a lot of movies, but the three of us were the lead, so that was a different experience. And Hill Street, I was just a smiling little kid, who was so happy to be on the show, and get paid to do it. So, thanks for that question. That's a good question. They were different experiences, but wonderful.
Okay, I'm gonna step on Al's toes a little bit. I'm gonna just ask a follow-up to that because we're starting to get into Babylon 5, and then I'm gonna turn it over to him. So I just was gonna say, you're talking about being a mentorship on Babylon 5. Do you want to tell us a little bit about mentorship on that? And then Al, you take it from me. I'm not gonna talk anymore for the rest of the show. So
In
go ahead.
terms of being a mentorship, well, for instance, just a lot of friends. By then, a lot of people who I knew in town were guests on the show. Especially people that got cast as Centauris would show up, and the next thing they know, they had this ridiculous hair on, and felt like, oh my God, I have to go and act in this. And so it was part of my job as a regular to let them know the work is going to be the work. We're going to do the best we can with it. And I was good at encouraging that. And while not being ridiculously serious about the work, I tried to refer them back to all the good writing and all that. So that's the kind of mentor I was for the other people in the cast. You don't know what you're doing. You teach by example. There, how how you got your head squared up in terms of how big a shit I am on that show or not, and that we're all here to work. You couldn't have got better people than John Copeland to produce it, and the other producer's name has gone out of my head, but and JMS, those people were great. They appreciated if you got the work done and you got it done on time. And I didn't have anything to say to somebody like Andreas Katsoulis. I knew how good an actor he was, the best actor. Mira Furlan, I didn't have anything I had to say to her. She was already successful and a star by the time she got to the show. But, people who were younger, Jerry Doyle kept his eye. When we did scenes together, he was always open to hear what I thought about it. I tried to be open to him. I wasn't, I wasn't in a mentor role, but I tried to teach by good example, Does that sound hokey, or is that a good answer?
That sounds fantastic. I have to also first start off, since I'm starting off here, Peter, I wanted to thank you for coming on this show. I mean, I went out and got my shirt out, my Babylon 5 shirt there on this, have you on the face, because you have been one of my favorite. Let's show it again. Yeah, there we go. You have been one of my favorite characters on the series. You and Andreas, I love the interaction for you. A couple parts to this. Your scenes with Andreas has become legendary in the sci-fi community. How much time did you take to prepare for each scene between you and Andreas?
You know what? We didn't take as you have probably heard, Mehmet, about, or so many Babylon 5 fans have heard too. We had different work, the way we went about our work. Andreas was, first of all, he had done such great work. He had worked in the very top-notch best theater, Peter Brook's Theater out of the UK, traveled around and did, great work all around the world, including in front of the Shah of Iran and, all over Africa. So he, the one-armed man in what was the show? The one-armed man in
The Fugitive.
The Fugitive. I mean, that's a great performance. He was so quiet and scary in it. He did a great job. So, but he would get dressed in the morning. We all would get dressed and do our makeup together. And when he got into the Jacquard drag, as I used to call it, he basically stayed in there all day. He was serious about his work. You could tell it was Andreas because he had the ubiquitous cigarette going all the time. He loved to smoke, and but he stayed close to the character all the time. I don't work that way. Lando took so much more energy. You could tell he's a much more energetic guy than me. He's a funnier guy than me. He's a more ambitious probably than I am. And so I look forward to getting off the set. So we didn't really work on the scenes together. We both respected enough what we both were doing. And it was kind of him because he was really, the top of the heap in our cast in terms of talent, I think, and work.
I mean, was there any ad-libbing between your? I mean, you had so many great scenes. I took a bit of a history lesson back to watch some of your stuff, like the elevator scene on there, the scene in the chamber room where basically you
know that one.
you told Jakar he's no longer basically a representative of his world, and that you screamed out. He's like, no, get him out. And Andreas gave that speech, and I don't know, Boxleiter had not Box Boxleiter had said later on that it made the hairs on his back, as Sheridan, it made my hair on the back of my neck just go up to that
Good writing and
situation.
a good actor can do that for you, right?
Yeah. But was there any ad-libbing to that point, in some of the scenes?
You know what? Really, in terms of ad-libbing, I think that we had gotten a little bit of a leash from JMS, that he was okay once we had proved himself that we were going to cover his material. But and we liked each other a lot. We were friends away from the set, so we could make each other laugh and we could cut up. Some people have seen outtakes and blooper reels that they saw. We would goof on the characters a little bit. So we could get away with a little, but JMS was pretty strict about, he wasn't a word-to-word person. You got to get it exactly right. Mm-hmm. But he was, once or twice, I think I went in and said to him, I don't know about this scene, Joe, or maybe on my character. And he would listen kindly, Madman. And then he would say, yeah, just do it the way I wrote it. He'd give you a cup of coffee and a bagel and listen to your whine for a minute and then tell you, no, just do it the way I did it. It'll work out better.
Getting back to something you said earlier about makeup and all that. Now, there was always times that people had said Andreas hated the makeup. He never liked to be in a movie or a series where there'd be a lot of makeup on the face or anything like that. But he was Tomalak in Star Trek, and then he came over and did Jakar in this. And it was a great makeup job for Jakar on there. Absolutely. But I said, because I know there's some people that just
comment about that really. Yeah. And I don't know that he was really, I don't think he hated the work, but I think he was, as I said, you just look at The Fugitive, for instance, and, no makeup there. That's Andreas. And he was wonderfully expressive. And so maybe he didn't like, but he certainly never, mouthed off about it and couldn't have been more cooperative considering the stuff they were doing. His makeup was many, many times more difficult and more restricting than mine. His was a full piece that covered his whole face. Mine, as you know, just basically was from here up to put that bald cap on. And then the rest of it was painted on my face. So he had those big eye contact things he had to wear. A number of different actors came in to play the part that Julie Brown eventually played, his attaché. And they couldn't do it. They just couldn't do it. They couldn't wear those things all day over their eyes. They were too. So if Andreas did feel that way, I can't comment on that because he never complained to me about it. He was not a complaining guy by his nature. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I have a question from Lord Mathis out here. Was the nature of the relationship between Jakar and Londo in the writing, or was it the result of input between Peter and Andreas, or was it a bit of both, i.e. an effort between the actors and writers?
Well, really, that's the true answer. I mean, obviously, I've already said that good writing is where it's about. That if it ain't on the ain't on the page, it's not on the stage. So we appreciated that we had good writing. But Andreas and I were both actors who understood that our role was to bring who we were to that writing. And I don't say that it's part and parcel with JMS's work. You know that what you want to do with a character, even a character like Sid, who is no makeup but had his the crazy hair, that you got to bring yourself to the work. That's what you're trying to do. That's the ultimate job, is to be truthful if you can, and honest in the work, understand the script, and then mix yourself into the wonderful writing. So I can't get written out of the next script by JMS by saying this, but we were all together. Yes, I mean, I can't imagine. I can imagine actually somebody else playing my role, but I have a hard time imagining somebody else playing Jakar, because he he brought a real essence to it, and I may have brought an essence to it, but I would like to see somebody else play my role. When fans come up to me at cons and stuff, when I used to do those things and would do Lando Malare, that was really fun for me. I thought, you might be able to play a Centauri, and that goes for you, man. By the way,
thank you.
yes, oh yes.
Oh, really? I think I could be just like you.
Yes. See, they can't. As Jimmy Durante, who nobody knows anymore, used to say, everybody wants to get into the act.
Yeah. Yes.
Anyway,
I know Jimmy.
It was a combination of all of it. I mean, when it's done well, acting, the actor and the writer are both working together with the director, right?
Right. Well,
I gotta say, sir. I believe, I agree, Andreas did bring a gravitas to that, but you did as well. I mean, I flop back and forth between you two as my favorite on the show. I hope none of the other actors are listening, but I mean, you guys were just great together, and each individually in the show. I mean, it was just, great acting. I loved it. But sorry,
I had a ball, Snob, and you could see that. I knew I was in. I knew I was in, a great spot. Pig shit, I was happy. So,
well, just wait. There's more coming. These guys haven't seen, so it gets better.
What did you say, Cam?
I was going to say that these guys haven't seen. Some of these guys haven't seen the whole show. So you've got. We're in the middle of season 3, and you've got some really excellent stuff coming up. So,
arguably, the later, episodes are some of the best. Third and fourth season, like any show, everybody gets better. The people who are filming it, the tech people, the people who are writing it. In this case, we had one writer, but all the actors start to discover you can hardly go to any show. I mean, if you go to whatever your favorite show, Seinfeld or Friends or whatever show, the first seasons are troubled because people are trying to write the right stuff for the right people. And, so yeah, good stuff to come up in third and fourth season. That's right.
Well, Peter, we're getting inundated with, it's just coming through now. I'm putting them up, some of the chats, and they're all saying that, you and Andreas are the keys to this show. So
a little money
they
goes
all agree
a long
with me.
way.
I'm sorry to tell you, but
What's that, Snob?
They all seem to agree with me that you two, you're at least as equally as good. You guys made it, so yeah.
Well, as I said, a little money goes a long way with some people. You get $10 out there, they'll say positive things about you. So I didn't have to spend that much to get the good reviews.
But speaking of some of the shows that the episodes you've done now, more recently, you returned to the role as Lando Malare in the animated the Road Home.
Yes.
How was it to reprise the role in this recent animated movie?
It was fun, and it was interesting. By that time, I felt, I just said, third or fourth seasons got better because everybody gets more practice. So I'm not as good a Lando as I was, in the middle of the third season of shooting him. So I suffered with that a little bit. I particularly missed, the original cast. It was the people who filled in for the people who have passed, gone beyond the rim, were great people and worked really hard at it. But it was not an easy. It wasn't easy for me to do. That's all. I'm also. Partly again with my theater background, but I'm also, besides a little over the top, I work physically a lot. My characters come out of how I walk, what I wear, So not having that under my to do. Anyway, it was a good experience, but it was a difficult experience. No Andreas, no Veer. I miss those people. Those people were really good actors, but really good friends, and we had great working relationships. So it rolled fast. You guys work together, right, as a team, or don't you? Well, then
Right.
it gets better when you work with people. What was that?
I said we try. I even
Yeah.
kidnapped Cam for my own show.
Well, eventually you get better, right? When you work with somebody a while.
Yeah. Let me ask you. This is with about because you and Andreas were fantastic, Londo, okay, but also you and Veer had such great interaction as well. I mean, you were so much. I see that you had so much joy doing this. I mean, it was really good to see these scenes with him on there. And then he's gone beyond the rim. He said that the interaction you had with him. I mean, you guys just hit it off. I mean, was it slow at first, or was it just like magic at the beginning?
You know what? We had known each other. We both. He did St. Elsewhere, which was a great horror drama. People like Denzel Washington came out of that cast. He did that show on MTM, the Mary Tyler Moore lot, the Radford lot, and we were literally right across the street from each other. And so Stephen and I knew each other. Plus, he and I both went up for a couple of roles and got called back a number of times. I forget, there was a movie with Michael Keaton and Christopher Lloyd, and I guess they were called the Dream Team, maybe, or not. Anyway, I mean, he and I went up on stuff together, so we knew each other as auditioning actors. And he was funny as can be. He called himself a curmudgeon, Stephen did, but he wasn't really a curmudgeon. He liked droll and dark humor, but he could make you laugh, and we had such a good time together. And I think that that made our work really work well. We had a great time. We enjoyed our time together. I tried to, back when I was doing single guests and stuff, you try to build a rapport with the people you're working with. Stephen, I didn't have to build a rapport with. He's so funny that he would crack me up, and we were like, two good buddies or two good schoolgirls, giggling all the time. He was an easy person those were easy days.
Oh yeah, because I remember him for Animal House. I mean, he was great in Animal House.
I know, right?
Founder,
funny.
He was really funny. Now, the show always had the narrations and all that. But one thing I've noticed, and maybe some of the fans noticed, that you had the pilot, and then in the beginning the narration. And it seems that JMS had you pegged as the true narrator of Babylon 5. I mean, do you think that was true with that, or was that just JMS just said, go ahead, here, read it?
The person to ask that question to, and so many of these questions, that's the person you want to get on your show. You can't get Andreas, you can't get me or Stephen, but you could get JMS if you were lucky, and he would be the person who could answer that. He told us we could look at the Bible and we could get an overview of the story if we wanted, but that doesn't mean we were going to understand it. And he had built it so he had trapdoors and stuff like that. And I think ultimately, when it was all said and done, I think he probably thought, it was Londo and Jakar's story, but like all good shows, the romantic relationship between Sinclair and Delenn was very important to the show. And then, as I said, all the other characters, all the Jerry Doyle episodes, all Andrea Thompson, and those all they're really important. But in a sense, I think by the end he had kind of revealed that in a centerpiece, maybe that's what he was looking for. But we spun out. He's such a good writer. He could work it all, In terms of the actual narrations, he just told me to do it, and I did it.
Now you mentioned Andrea. Of course, we're already past that point where Andrea has left the show at the point, and Patricia has returned to the show because she was in the pilot and all that. How was it? How did you feel, when Andrea left and then Patricia returned, and you hadn't seen Patricia in a while since the pilot?
Listen, Claudia at some point left. Jerry Doyle left, right? Those are part of ensemble shows. The people on Cheers lost their original bartender guy and Woody Harrelson replaced them. Stuff like that, that's built into a long-term series. And people from Hill Street Blues passed on, and they replaced them. That's part of rolling with the punches, and sticking. My wife used to say to me all the time when I thought of myself as too important, she'd say, Peter, if you drop dead tomorrow, they'd have somebody else in the Londo bar so fast. You couldn't believe it. And she's right. It rolls on. My wife and I were reading Robert Frost stuff this morning because we got our snow and all that. So he's a wonderful New England poet, if you guys don't know him. But and one of the lines he said, his opinion about life is that he sums up life in 3 words: life goes on. And I can see that life goes on, and that's what happened when Andrea had to leave, and when Claudia had to leave, and all of them would admit, if they weren't getting treated fairly, or if they weren't making enough money, they had every right to walk and to leave, and should. I would encourage the same thing for me or Andreas or anybody. You got to be happy in your work. So if you're not happy anymore, in terms of doing the work with him, I must admit I've always had a crush on Andrea Thompson. So
even though she became so evil,
it all the more enraptures me, that she became so evil.
But then it's, in a way, Bester kind of
was married to Jerry Doyle.
But Bester kind of slipped. They said, we kind of did some bad things there.
That's right, yes.
They kind of closed their character out to not to come back, I guess, at that point.
As I said, it all the more enraptures me. The worse you are, the more I like you, as Londo. He hung out with the shadows and Mr. Morton often.
Yes, he did. This is going to be out of the ballpark on here. From all the costume changes from the pilot straight through to season 5, even though you were stunning in purple, did you have a favorite costume for Londo Mollari?
I really, it's difficult for me to admit this because I have such a big ego about myself. But at some point I stopped watching. They were called dailies when I was doing Hill Street Blues, because I couldn't believe that creature that was on the screen was me. Like most men, or like many men, I imagine, in this, whatever I imagine myself to be. But it's not the guy with the big nose who looks kind of chubby. And, so what can I say? In terms of costuming, I never felt like I looked very good. My wife thought the boots were good. The boots were good. He wore great boots. He had exquisite jewelry they gave me. The people who made the pins and things that Londo wore, I really loved. I also had a little crush on the costume designer. So I was a good boy and hung around, too much to talk to her about costuming. When I was just basically interested in talking to her. But I didn't really love my costuming. In the first season, you remember they had Londo in a cape. Do you remember when he wore a cape?
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Cape is a big pain in the ass to deal with, as you know. I mean, it's all over you. And, at some point I did say, maybe she said to me, we're going to let the cape go, because they could see I was struggling with that. So, but other than that, I was, happy to have whatever looked good halfway on me. I was okay.
Yeah, it almost sounds like The Incredibles, where he goes like, "No capes here."
Exactly.
Did you get to keep any of the clothing from the series? No, not
Are you
at all?
kidding?
Even the purple?
I have a sheet of papers. It's about that thick, a quarter inch thick, of when Warner Brothers did all the auctions of all our costumes and all the props and all the jewelry. And they ain't so dumb. They made a lot of money keeping those costumes and when I left the set, I wanted to take something to be a memory for me. Let's see if it's around here. Yeah, I have it right up here. Hold on. And I requested that I could take one of the statues that was in Londo's quarters. Here it is. And
Look at that.
Oh,
and they
yes.
said no. They said write a request to Warner Brothers, and I did it in triplicate as they asked, and I'm not kidding. And then they wrote back and said, nope, we're not going to give it up. So, like so many of the people had already been encouraging me, especially Jerry Doyle. He said, "Pocket it, man. Are you kidding? Take it the last day, and they won't know." So,
Is that the
this is
artifact that poisoned you?
No, I don't remember what that. There were 3 of these in my quarters.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's just a little cheap piece of wood
Right.
with a plastic top. But I don't know what they sold them for. But I told you I have the list of what they got for
Yeah.
Jakar's full costume and my full costume, and there were several thousands of dollars. So
You can only
Before
show that
we
because
go over
the
to
statute
Jeff,
of
I
limitations.
got one more for you.
they're great questions, by the way, Madman. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, when the day was over, or time off, did you and the cast members spend any time outside? And I'm not talking Comic-Cons or anything like that, where you meet fans. I'm talking like, man, did you go over a picnic or anything? Did you spend any time with them?
Of course we did. Andreas and I were really good friends, so I spent plenty of time having to eat his dinners that he made. I'm not a cook, so he, I might take him out to a dinner, but I didn't force my food on him. But Mira and I were really good friends. Her husband, Goran, and my wife, Barbara, we were, we would share time. We both had kids at the same time. So my son
Was it Greek food?
Andreas was his Greek. Yeah, he liked Greek food. He did. But he was a guy who would eat almost anything. When I traveled with him on conventions and stuff, I was amazed at the stuff he'd put in his mouth. He would eat anything, Andreas. He loved life. He loved eating. He loved smoking. He loved women. So he had a good time in his life. Andreas did.
Yeah. Just to get back real quick, 1 second, and I'll say this: as far as the boots, both you and Andreas had the best boots on the show, the entire show.
Oh yeah.
Good. My wife liked the boots, so I
was just watching the scene with Andreas, and he was, when he's on the bridge and he's walking across, and all you see is just his boots walking across the stuff there.
They were great
he said
boots.
Londo and Jakar wore the best boots in the entire series.
She was a wonderful designer, and God, I'm so embarrassed that I can't think of her name right now. I know there's fans out there who will remember who did the costume designs, but as I said, I'm 75. I'm not remembering things as much as I do. It was a long time ago.
But you're doing great. I mean, it's like the 30 plus on years on there. So I'm going to switch it over to Jeff now.
Bill Mooney, by the way. Bill Mooney was a good friend off the set.
That's great. So I'm going to switch this to Jeff. He's got a bunch of questions to ask you there. Thank you again. Thank you for coming on again.
Thank you.
It is a pleasure, especially to meet the great Londo Mollari.
Well, you're so nice. You led me all the way through this getting on here. So thank you so much. Not that all of you didn't encourage me on.
We also have to thank, before I switch it to Jeff, we also have to thank David Shifter, who also put us together on there. Old high school friend of mine, and he got us together onto that.
And he was a friend of mine. Did you tell them when I said, we don't thank him. Just tell him to send me $100.
$100.
Right?
I'm going to text him right now on that.
Yeah, really. I tell him I'll take checks from him. I don't think anybody else will take checks from him now in life. So tell him I'll take a personal check.
All righty, Jeff, it's your ball.
Oh yeah, I'm not sure even the grocery store takes checks anymore. I think I saw signs saying no, we're not going to take them anymore. Yeah, it's going to get old, but yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for coming on with us. It was such a delight when we first got to talk to you, and I think so far it's been really enjoyable.
I hope so for the fans. Good.
Oh yeah,
It's the same
definitely.
thing for me, as I said, let's not
Yeah.
talk about me. Let's talk about my work. It's fun.
Yeah.
Jeff, just going to interrupt for a second. Peter, you're looking at the costume designer. Was it Anne Brucey? Is that her name?
Yes, Anne Bruce.
Okay.
Yes, I'm.
Thought I meant
Yeah, I blush to remember. Yes,
Look
you
at
got
that.
it. Thank you for that.
So I would be remiss if my first question wasn't from my my beautiful bride,
Oh,
Jeanette.
good.
She says, "How many times did you have to read for the part, or were you actually sought out by JMS?"
I had a really interesting casting. Um, Mary J. Joe Slater, who cast it, I had worked with her before, and she had cast me in a couple of other TV movies, I think, and some other things. So she called me in for the part, and Andreas and I were with the same agent, so quite. It's very unique, but we got called in on the same day, and we got called in right after each other. So I think I went in first. I read at 3, and then Andreas read at 3:15 or something like that, which is very rare. But he and I got to talk and look at pictures, I mean, drawings of our characters. And then I got a job that I had to go to in New York. So I left the next day or the day after that. And when they had callbacks, they called my agent and said, yeah, we would like to have Peter come back and read. And you know what Peter said? I'm in New York. I can't read, take me or leave me. It was quite fortuitous for me. Andreas went back, I think, but I didn't even have to do a callback, and they cast me. I don't know. I don't think they didn't regret it. Maybe when I first did the pilot, they may have, but I don't know. I was lucky enough that I just had one audition, and I couldn't make the callbacks. So
Okay.
that's really lucky,
Yeah,
That
yeah,
was
yeah.
lucky for
Because you're
me.
like, I'm sorry, I'm in New York. I'm on the other end of
That's
the
right.
country.
If you want me, I'm available. Make an offer.
Yeah, yeah. One of our regular guest panelists, Outpost Nerd, had a question. He said Babylon 5 had some amazing guest stars, and
Didn't it?
one major, yeah, I mean, you guys have a ton of them. One of the major guest stars was Majel Barrett Roddenberry. What was it like playing opposite to one of the first ladies of science fiction and some of the other guest stars in the show?
That's Point of No Return, which is the episode they're looking at, I think
Yeah.
now. But anyway, it was really. Am I wrong about that? Maybe I think it is. You can ask Hal. But anyway, it was a little intimidating. That's all I can say. I mean, you have to have. First of all, she's older than I am. She was a woman, so I had great respect for her just on that note. The usual dirty jokes between Vera and I were not going around that day. But the Roddenberry name meant something to me, and it means something to anybody. And she also was a person. I had mentioned this about Andreas. She was quite serious about the work.
Yeah.
She didn't take the work. It wasn't a lighthearted set like as I said, Viet and I used to be. Stephen and I used to screw around a lot and had a great time on the set. I tried generally to do that, but I was a little intimidated by her. You can't go anywhere in science fiction without running into Gene Roddenberry or what's his name from the Twilight Zone, Serling.
Rod Serling, yeah.
Rod Serling. These people, they're icons for a reason. In terms of television, they're pretty iconic. So,
Yeah.
I was serious about it. I don't know that I did it as well as I could have in those scenes, but I was a little intimidated. What can I say? It was nice to work with her, and I wanted to be respectful. The stupid kind of jokes that go between Star Trek and Babylon 5 and the other shows are just that. They're stupid arguments. Each show is so singularly its own. You can't really compare it to talk about apples and oranges, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're not the same at all. But I did have respect for her and for the last name. So
Yeah.
It was a little intimidating. What can
Yeah,
I say?
yeah. I bet. I bet it would be.
I mean, the few times I met Shatner and Nimoy's son directed, but Leonard Nimoy was
Mhm.
really you kind of shake your head and say, okay, I know who you guys are.
Yeah.
I know where you really stand in terms of
The,
television
the
sci-fi.
hierarchy of the
Yeah,
the
exactly.
blue bloods, if you will. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dave, speaking about you and Veer, right? Londo and Veer. Dave, one of our regular viewers, he said, "What memories do you have of the fantastic, albeit brief scene?" And you know where I'm going with this. When Londo
No.
and Veer singing the opera aria in
Oh,
the
well,
hallway near the
you know
elevator.
what? You can see we had a ball with that, but
Yes.
and I don't think Stephen looking down if he's either bothering to look down at all. But he was I was a lot more intimidated by the singing than I was. I had been in musicals and I
Hmm.
had studied voice, and so I felt more confident about the music anyway. But what I remember is that Stephen was a little like, "Oh no, we have to sing Centauri opera," but we had a great time eventually. If you look at the scene, you'll see at one point I reach out and grab his hand,
Yeah.
and I did that in a kind of supportive way between the two of us.
Hmm.
I confess that, but that was such a good time. I mean, what a fun scene! And then the guy who comes in afterwards, wonderful actor. I think he's passed now. He and I had worked together a number of times, and so that completed that scene. Um,
Oh
you
yeah.
know,
Yeah,
yeah,
he was Londo's best friend, right? And
yeah, that's right.
became
Yeah,
kind
we
of an
should look up
enemy
his
by
name.
demise. Yeah, yeah. I'm sure Al is already on it, or Snob.
You have no excuse. I have an excuse because
Oh,
I'm 75, but you have no excuse.
I,
But
I
the
have a
fans are
whole
going to
list
fill
here.
it in for you really fast. They're
Yeah,
gonna they're gonna fill it in. Yeah, he was a wonderful actor,
I'm
and
so sure somebody's gonna pop it into one of these
of
chats,
course,
three chats here. Um, so that, I mean, that was, yeah. It didn't even come off as being supportive. It came off as, and you could see it when you did grab, but it came off as a like a excitement, a celebratory, like you were getting him. You were both kind of really enjoying it at that
we were
point.
trying to be fanboys of it.
Yeah,
We were acting like, I don't know, two guys who love the Beatles or the Rolling Stones or my generation's music, and say, wow, isn't it great? We love this. So that was the intent behind both of us, that
right.
gee, what fun, our old favorite music. So
Yeah, yeah. How different is Centauri from Italian?
don't ask me. That's a good. We kind of made that up. We kind of
Did you
made that up.
really? Yeah.
No, there was nothing written. No
Oh,
music.
really?
No music was written for it, and no actual dialogue was written. I mean, I believe that's the way it went down. Somebody could go and track down the original script, but I don't think JMS wrote any words for us, and I know we made up the music for
Okay.
us.
Oh, that's awesome.
Stephen and I could goof around together. We had good fun.
So,
So
so there's an ad lib moment you guys actually had where you got to put it in. It probably had, singing, operatic singing in parentheses, kind of like techno babble.
no, it's true.
Yeah.
That's really true. That's true. I have such pleasant memories. We had so many. I mean, like the duck scene, or where he says to me, or I say to him, "Come on, what is that American? Feathers, webbed feet."
Oh,
He
yeah.
says,
I remember.
"Cats."
Yeah.
Right. I mean, those were such great
Cats.
fun scenes to do. Cats.
That is a great scene. And that's early on. I think that was
That
season
was
one.
really early on,
Yeah.
but if you look at that, you could tell Stephen and I love doing it. So
Yeah. Dean wants to know, is it true, speaking about Centauri, is it true that you had an escalating dare about how bad your hair could be at the start of filming? And if so, tell us about it.
You know what? I've told the story many times, but Dean is right. It is true. When they make a wig in Hollywood, they always make it, when they construct the wig, they always make it too long. Because they hope that, they could cut it. And if it's too long, if it's too short, you're screwed, right? You can't make it longer. So they make them too long. And when they first put the wig on me, those were the hardworking guys from that makeup group. Boy, they were great. They slept over, and when we were doing the pilot, but they put the wig on, and it was really long, and I thought it looked funny, and the makeup people thought it was funny, so we thought JMS would find it funny. So we walked down the hall, and he was in his little trailer typing away like you always found him. And we said, "Hey, JMS, this was a joke. We thought this would be a good look for Londo, the really big hair, because the original sketch I had referenced to Al about the audition with Andreas, and he had sketches of all of our characters. And my character had very short little hair, kind of what Katarja, the emperor, wore, tiny little. And so we thought that would be funny. And he looked at it and he said, "No, that looks good. Leave it like that. That looks good, really long." And as I always told in convention, the joke was on me, right? I mean, I had to wear that hair for 5 years, but yeah, exactly. And the poor girls who had to do it, two wonderful UK hair artists, they would work on it and make it as perfect as they could, and then bring it in, and it was like a coronation on my head, the last thing of the day. But yeah, Dean has it right. We presented it to Joe as though it was a joke, and the joke was on us.
Yeah. You made your bed, or hair in this case. There was a good question that popped up in the chat. It says, so what was it like for your character Londo to go from being the buffoonish diplomat, the guy who got stuck at the end of the galaxy, nobody wanted this position. In fact, that was just revealed in the episode last week that we watched. We kind of knew that to begin with, but it came out, and of course your counterpart Jakar discovered that, right? What was it like to go from that to being the dark Faustian villain?
That was the best part, not the best part, but one of the initial things that I loved about the character from the very beginning. That turn, I mean, most of the time when you're on a television series, they hire you and you play basically that character. I mean, you're the good doctor from across town, or you're the evil police chief, and then you play that over and over and over, and the writers write for that story. The great thing about Babylon is that I started out, as you say, buffoonish, a drunk. He was stuck in a corner in life. That's what I always said I loved about him. He was at the, suicide was the next real option for him.
Right.
And he was trying to do that with booze anyway. Instead, what Joe had in store for it was that turn. And that's what made it great. It really was fun to play. I told you that he already knew that I had built a little bit of a reputation as being able to play comedy and drama sufficiently equal, or maybe sufficiently, I don't know. Some people would find all the dramatic scenes comedic, but that's not my call. That's somebody else's. That's the critics. But so I was the right guy. He said, I saw recently, he said he was looking for a cross between Charles Lawton and Zero Mostel. And, both of those are, in my estimation, great. I could never aspire to be as good as Charles Lawton or Zero Mostel as an actor, but they were the same kind of actors. They could turn it both ways.
Okay.
So that turn was right up my alley. It was the best thing.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that arc, and even with the costume changes, I know some of the commentary JMS has done on some of the episodes, on the DVD box set. He talks about how you started off in one costume and then migrated over to, they started adding the red.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
your performance, I think you see his look at it, like what have I wrought, at certain points in time.
The Faustian thing that you mentioned, that's right. And everybody was on the same page with JMS. He may not look like he was a tough guy, but he ran that show. He knew what he wanted that show to be. A couple of times that got compromised by the network, by money or whatever, or loss of actors and stuff. But the aforementioned Anne Bruce, the costume, he spent a lot of time with her. He never admitted, like I did, that he had a crush on her, but the two of them worked together a lot. They developed the costumes for people. They really did. They tried to make Londo's costume change and
Right.
grow.
Okay.
I mean, he had those great cufflinks with eyeballs on them. Come on, those are so cool. Those looked like they should have been in Clockwork Orange or something. They were great. Anyway.
Yeah. Dave from Emperor's Choice Games, he's a buddy of mine. He asked me, what was your favorite moment in the whole story to play? What was your favorite moment?
I don't know that I could nail one moment. Again, getting an understanding of the character. Some of the very earliest things I had to do in the pilot, the speech about with Garibaldi when the characters at the bar, and he talks about, we've become an amusement park and all that. When he was the drunk at the beginning, who was just horrified at what he had done to himself and what the Centauri had become. I loved playing that. I wasn't as facile, I wasn't as good maybe as I got after 3 seasons. I mean, there are all sorts of things I had to do. I can't, to pin one down, as they jokingly say, they are all my little children. I couldn't find one. I had so many good moments. The moment in on the ship watching Centauri Prime getting. I shouldn't maybe say that. It's a spoiler alert.
That's okay.
Yeah, I mean, that was a great moment. The scenes with Andreas, there were so many. We started at like two kids bickering, and then eventually our scenes got pretty heavy together. The scenes in the prisons and stuff. So it's hard to pick one. I do remember, as I said, the pilot was really fun because I was just discovering him at that point. So I said maybe I wasn't as solid, and I wavered back and forth. But those were really fun moments. That's a great question. But I love doing the pilot too.
And there's a question here. As an actor, were you happy with the character development and resolution? It sounds like you were. You like to see that completion.
I was over the moon about it. As I said, the idea of signing on to 5 years or 7 years, how long the contracts were that didn't particularly, making the money every week was intriguing and great for me, and I loved that idea. Oh, yippee! We're going to make a good amount of money, and we're going to make it every week. That of course was great, but if I had to play, as I said, the good doctor on some series over and over and over, and that's all I got to do, or the whatever, like I said, the bad sheriff, it was not going to be fun. This was great because of that. Because of the changes.
There was a whole completion on it.
Yeah.
Shadow and Sun asks, what did you do professionally after Babylon 5? And what was it like to know you were possibly the most popular character on the show?
What was the second part of it? What did I do afterwards?
What did you do? Yeah, what did you do professionally?
Yeah.
What was after Babylon 5? And the second part was, what was it like knowing you were one of the, if not the most popular character?
First of all, that's all. It depends on who's watching, who would say who was the most popular. As I said, I loved doing the part when I was doing it. I was glad people liked the character. If they didn't, I didn't hear about it. You're not in the theater where they throw fruit and boo. So I would just go home and make believe the people who didn't like what I did, I didn't have to worry about it. It was great. I liked the part. So that was it. In terms of what I did afterwards, I would refer you to my resume. But when I look it over, stuff like I'm looking at films now: The Longest Ride, Runaway Jury, 42, Arthur Newman, Little Red Wagon. There was a lot of stuff. In terms of TV, what did I do after? I think I did Sliders afterwards. That show, a sci-fi show. Yeah, that was after Babylon 5, or maybe during Babylon 5. I don't remember where Dear John was. I don't know if that was before Babylon 5 or after. But I'm looking at every year I was really lucky. I did network pilots all the time. So after I did Babylon 5, I got a couple of network pilots that didn't go, but those were I did one with Pierce Brosnan, who I had done Remington Steele a couple of times.
Oh, yeah.
I did two. I think I did 2 episodes on that, 2 different characters, but I liked him very much. And we had a pilot that we did together that didn't go. And Shelley Duvall, I had a pilot that didn't go. So I did that. What else? I'm looking at my Drop Dead Diva, Going to California. I don't know. I'm an actor, as I said. I have a kind of chubby face and a big nose. I look a little like Jeff here, but so they could cast me. They cast me. I could work when they could find a spot for me just about in anything.
If only I could act.
If only you could act. That's right. I can't do what you do, though. So anyway, I did a lot of work. You can look if you go on IMDb, that site, WIMDb. That is the only one that does actors chronologically, and the only way you get on there is if you actually have a SAG contract. So people could say, "Oh, I was on Breaking Bad. I did a couple of episodes of Breaking Bad." But if you go on IMDb, if it's not on there, you didn't do it. Because they put up contractual work.
Okay. Let's see. We all love him as Londo. Could you ask him what other roles of his that he thought was particularly good in and that people should watch? So,
well, obviously Hill Street Blues. That character, Sid the Snitch. That was the first character part, like Londo, that they let me do. As I said, the first stuff when I first was doing the show with James Earl Jones, I was playing me, and I played me. I played a lot of lawyers and teachers, straight guys. I could do those roles for people. But when I got a really juicy character role, that was lucky. And another actor said to me, "Peter, you hit the lottery twice, because really Londo was a great character to play, and Hill Street Blues was a great character. He was a fun character, Sid the Snitch." So I would say that was one of my favorites. I'm trying to think. I did just a ton of TV movies. So I played a lot of. I'm looking at my resume here. I mean, I think back to the Perry Mason movie that I did, and I met Jerry Orbach. He's an actor who was in tons of stuff, but we got to know each other on that. So that was a sweet movie. I loved doing that. I never thought that would be a fun gig for me. It was an old series, and those people were using me a lot. But I looked fondly back at that television movie, and there were a lot of stuff that afterwards, I refer you to IMDb. If you haven't been on that page, the nice thing is you can find Babylon 5 and they'll show you everything I did after it.
All 110 episodes. Yeah.
Yeah, after the 110 Babylon 5. I know, enough already, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Sorry,
Right.
Jeff. We're getting a lot of feedback and doubling from from you, I think.
From me or from him?
No, from
No,
Jeff.
Peter, you're okay. And now we're getting from you.
No, getting it from me too. That's strange. Al, I'll see if you go ahead.
No problem. No problem. I'll take over here a second. Peter. Yeah, I got one of your. Oh, well, it's happening to me too here. Oh, wow. One of your biggest fans, you may know her very well. You've spoken with her. You've done a little bit of a soliloquy to her. She says, in the back there, you have a lot of books.
Yes.
What is it that you read the most? Do you read science fiction? Do you read, drama? What do you like?
Well,
about
all of these books over here are just plays and some acting books. I don't know who you're talking about. Who I did.
You know who you're talking about. You know who you're talking about.
No, I don't know. It's not
my wife. My wife. You know.
Oh, you're. Okay. I had nothing to do with his wife. Don't believe him. Wait. Those rumors are unfounded. Right now I have friends who are writers that I have a stack of books next to my bed. I have a wonderful friend who writes. He's written a new science fiction novel called. I can't remember. It's noir. Anyway, his name is Rich Leader. I read his books. I have really good friends who are writers who send me all their books on hand. So I have a stack of books there. I have a dear friend who was a college friend who always sells me history, but I like science stuff, Brian Cox and stuff like that. Those are more my favorite. And I love plays and I love poetry because I'm an interpreter. That's my job. So
now Jeff brought up the opera scene on there. And
he did.
You can say no to this. But could you throw us a little tune tonight and get a little bit?
You want to see if I can sing Centauri opera?
Yeah. Well, we know you had a bit of a singing thing. There's an album. I know there's an album that you have out there.
That's right.
That's
unfair because there are really serious singers like Bill Mumy. He was a serious singer. Claudia, I think, is a really good singer. I can't sing any. I can't. I mean, I'll sing. Let's see. Boom boom. Oh, I can't remember the words of the Centauri opera. I can't do it. It'll just cost you too much. You guys are paying a ton to get me on here already, and I can't make you pay residuals for good. I'm not going to sing Moon River for you. So,
well, that my wife.
I can do Londo for you anytime. I can say,
please,
my good and dear friends.
Londo.
Greetings and salutations, my good and dear friends. What an honor it has been for me to spend this hour or two with you, you moon-faced assassins of joy. It has been a good time for me, so thank you. And these four who have invited me, as I said, I'm not sure I'm going to get the check they promised anyway, so it doesn't matter. The joy for me has been with you, the fans. These four over here, God only knows what they're up to. All right, that's my Londo for you. That's the best I can do at this age.
Awesome.
Great.
Any more questions? Anything else I can do for you? Anything you want me to talk about? Any other shows? Any of the people on the show want to hear inside dope on who they really were? Dirty little secrets I know from spending 5 years with these people.
Absolutely.
I'll give it all.
By all means,
if the
take
money's
it.
right. No, I would do serious about them, and they're all good people. I have no dirty little secrets, and if I did, I wouldn't tell them to you guys.
You know what?
We're the fans.
I would
We're
love
the
to hear
fans.
anything you have to say about any of the cast, any recollections that are special to you, and then.
Yeah, you know what? I always say this. What I said about Bruce. He was the perfect person to be the head of the cast. Michael O'Hare, that was a different situation, but he was an actor who had come from New York and had never really kind of led a cast. It takes a special talent to not be a big egotist, but to lead well. And Bruce was a terrific person to be on top of the cast list. Bill Mumy is such a multi-talented guy. You go back to Lost in Space, and he's been doing it forever and ever. He produces, directs, writes, and then he has a serious musical catalog. And really great guy. Loves his family. He's an old hippie. He's an old liberal. There's nothing not to like about, for me, not to like about Bill Mumy. He was great. Mira Furlan, who we lost, what can I say? She was, as I said, she was a star before she got to Babylon 5. She was a star in her country, and she suffered a lot of, tough times and challenges because she was Croatian. She married a Serbian, and like all wars and standoffs, it's filled with a lot of crap. But she faced up to that, and she was a fabulous actress. I've already confessed that I had a crush on Andrea Thompson, but she really was a special person. And likewise, Jerry Doyle. When he came, he was a guy on Wall Street. He had done some work, but very little. And he was quite amazing that he was able to kind of do all the work he did. And when I told you he was somebody who paid attention and learned every day, he was smart guy. He was a smart man, and he learned. By the end of his life, as you know, he had his own radio show, and he was a very successful man. So, what can I say about him? He was a great guy. Pat Tallman has the biggest heart of all of us. She, Claudia was really the heart and soul of our cast, in the sense that when we were low or things weren't going well, Claudia she very strong person. She was the person who picked us all up. So she was kind of the beating heart, Claudia. But Pat has such a great, big, loving heart that she was great. I talked about Stephen already. I've talked about Andreas.
What about Ed Wasser?
Ed Wasser was he was Mr.
You had
Morgan.
great interaction with him, in the series.
He was great. I don't know. I hope he enjoyed our time together as much as I did. Again, Londo was sucked in by him, but at some point I think he was always aware that he was on thin ice with Morden, that he was getting something, but he was my character was a kind of character that was well aware when people were, taking from him. So, but Ed was, he was just a great, again, hardworking like Jerry. I don't think I'm an easy actor to work with. And so many of his scenes were with me, but he was always hardworking and working to be the Mr. Molden that we love. So,
my other T-shirt is an Ed Wasser T-shirt as Mr. Morden, but in darkness.
He was great in that role, wasn't he? He was playing old Spooky at some points. He was. Who else?
Now there is a question from the chat. Let me see if I can get this out. Hold on 1 minute here. Okay, here we go. Edgelord King. My childhood friend, the best man at my wedding, died of cancer a couple of years ago. He was identical in personality to Londo. Thank you for reminding me of him every time I watch him.
Well, what can I say? That is my great gift, that to get a character like that from JMS, and then for it to reverberate down to you, my friend. To remind you of your friend. I don't know what to say. Those are the good things. Sometimes I look back, as I said, I'm going to be 76 next year. And you start looking back at your life and you say, gee, I wonder whether I should have been, maybe I could have been a doctor, or that would have been fun. I could have helped more people, or I could have been this or that. And sometimes I do that, like everybody does about their work. But moments like this, make me realize I was really lucky to do what I did. Even in the smallest roles, if you touch somebody, you brighten their day, or in this case, remind you of your best man who you lost to cancer. Well, what can I say? I'm a lucky son of a bitch, right? So.
Oh yes, you are.
To tell me.
Now, do we have anything else? Ask Peter.
Do I have anything else?
No,
Haven't I talked enough? As I said to you, the joke about the actor, don't forget that. I could go on. You could shut this down and I'll sit here and talk for another hour. But that's because I'm old and I had some blessings and good luck in my life.
We'd all listen.
Yeah, right. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Yeah, so we're hitting the 2-hour mark, Peter.
Okay, good.
I don't know if you want to continue or
Well, I would take more questions if you want. At some point, my wife will come in and say, "Come back to my arms, my lover and friend." All right, but I would answer some more questions if you wanted me. I'm going to say what I said at the beginning. Snob, Al, and Jeff, and all you guys, Cam. It's up to you guys. I'm ready to say goodnight, and I'm ready to thank you for a great time, and I'll follow your lead, okay? And I'll go get a glass of Brevari and call it a night.
Well, how about we do two more questions?
Great.
And I'll
anything you like. The only thing I refuse is singing, and that got you off the hook. You don't know how bad I actually sing. I could sing a little bit, but I did musicals. But
I'll put it to a question from Jeff. And one from Al.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Snob.
Go ahead, guys.
I'll start off here. Hang on. You were on Sliders. I think toward the end of the series. How was it working with that group of science fiction?
Well, first of all, the cast was very generous. They were. Happy I was on. I was replacing an actor in a sense. I can't remember his name. He's a famous English actor. In a sense, I was replacing him, not actually. And the thing about that role is that what was he? He was like an astrophysicist or something like that. The character, very, very big head, very bright, and. Goes without saying it was a real stretch for me.
That's great, John Rhys Davies.
That's right. First of all, those are big shoes to step into, and the character was so smart that I always felt like it was, above my head. I don't know that I did such a great job with the character, but it was certainly a joy to do. I enjoyed it. I had played people who are smarter than me a number of times, and that's always a challenge. Let's make believe I'm really smart. As I always tell people, I can hardly figure out how to make cornbread muffins without following the recipe very carefully. And so to make believe that I was an astrophysicist, not really, But I had a great time and I loved doing it. One more from you, Jeff?
Yeah. Real quick, any hobbies or projects outside of acting that you enjoy?
You know what? As I said, I'm a real lover of music. I'm have an eclectic taste for jazz. I love all the people from the Boomer generation, but I'm the ultimate Bob Dylan fanboy. So I love him. But I love Jeff Beck, and so I love rock and roll. I love Pat Metheny. I love Jaco Pastorius. So I love music, and as I said, my wife and I, on our second cup of coffee, were reading poems to each other this morning. That's not kidding. That's real. So I love poetry because that's what acting's about, interpreting literature. So It was really great.
That's
so
awesome.
Those are my hobbies. I love baseball too.
Me too.
I know. I see. I mentioned it to you.
Yes, sir.
I've been in your park. I love Wrigley. It's great.
Oh,
great.
Wrigley's great.
Yeah, it's great. Who else has appeared here?
The very much beleaguered. Peter, I just wanted to jump in. My name is I'm editor over at SCIFISNOB.
I see.
And I just wanted to come in. I'm not going to ask a bunch of questions because I'm stepping in at the end. But I do want to thank you for doing all of this and being a part of it. And giving us time tonight. Generous of you, very gracious of you. You didn't have to do it. It is much free.
And I appreciate so much you saying it. Thanks for saying that. I take it to heart. I was happy to do it. This is a great crew of people, despite the occasional Cub hat or Cub cap that I see. Yeah, exactly. But no, I like all four of these people a lot. So this is great for me to do. But I appreciate you saying it. Fun for me. Thanks.
We're going to have to go see a baseball game sometime.
I'd love it. Okay. All right, you guys. Well, let me know what you lead me on.
All right, Peter. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you for the nice words about it. It was my pleasure, and I always love to chat with the fans. So it was really nice to be invited. Thank you.
And we greatly appreciated you being out here. Is there anything that you have coming out as an actor that you want to mention at all?
No. As I said, I don't work anymore in my chosen profession. So I have a long list of things I have to do for my sweet wife. I'm retired and happy to be retired and enjoying that. So, huh? What did you say? Oh, you're looking to see? Are you still getting me out?
We're having a bit of an echo in our end.
Oh, good. Well, I have nothing. I have nothing coming out that you should be watching for or waiting for. I don't write books. If I write poetry, no one will see it. So, anyway, thank you for asking.
Peter, I did have a thought on how you started for the Tron franchise. Your program was but your human users we've never met. And you mentioned your lightsaber. I wouldn't see why you couldn't play a blind programmer and come back to Tron.
I'm not sure I understood what you said because I'm getting a little broken from you. But are you trying to get me back in those white tights?
No. You could play your human counterpart.
Oh yes, that's right. I could. That's right. He didn't die. That's right.
Put on
the bank guy. Right.
Yeah.
Make sure you give Disney a call if you got some, cachet over there. As I said, I don't think I can get in front of a camera anymore because of these light things. But yeah,
I would. You put on dark sunglasses and your character is blind, and you're all set.
That's it. That's who I can play. You got it. Write me the role. I'm there. If I can wear sunglasses, I can do it.
There you go. Well, thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you, sir. And hopefully we can have you back at some point in the future. That would be great. We greatly appreciate this. Thank you for your time. And thank you on behalf of all the fans for the joy that you brought us in the show and as Londo.
Thank you. Thanks for saying it. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And if you could just sort of hold on after the show ends, and then we'll let you go.
Is that when I get my? Is that when I get my money?
Yeah. That's the pay.
Thanks again, everyone. Thank you for coming into the show and watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe on the way out. And have a good night. Good night, everyone.